Welcome to Blooming Wildwood Homestead. Today I just wanted to hop on and share with you a quick artisan bread that requires very little hands-on time. It does take a bit of wait time, but the actual hands-on time is very, very limited. I started this loaf of bread last night, and you were able to see that at the beginning of my pantry challenge video where I had gone ahead and made it up. This recipe is adapted from an artisan bread recipe in the Simply Living Well book, and this recipe was adapted to use the sourdough starter. So I went ahead and just very basic threw in 3 cups of flour, a little bit of salt, put in some sourdough starter, about half a cup, give or take, and then mix that together, added in about 1.3 cups of warm water. It does take a little bit of variation just depending on what your flour's doing and how much starter you added. The starter does add a little bit of that liquid, so it doesn't require quite as much water as the original recipe would. And then that sat overnight. You let it go for about 18 to 24 hours, and then we're to the part I'm going to show you today, which is just flopping it out, folding it over a couple of times on the board, and then we'll let that rise again for 2 hours before placing it in the oven. Here's what our dough is currently looking like. You can see it's definitely risen up, it's light and airy, lots of activity going on here, so this is going to be great. I floured the breadboard. You do want quite a bit of flour just to make sure that things are not going to stick. I also like to make sure there's plenty of flour on my hand as I reach in to get the dough out of the container. Just run my hand around the edge. And turn that out onto the board. I'm going to fold it over a couple of times. Just kind of shaping it into a little bit of a loaf. And then I'm going to cover that with a little bit of saran wrap, or you can use a damp towel, and we're gonna let that sit for 2 hours. We went ahead and heated up the small cast iron Dutch oven with the lid on in the oven at 450 degrees. I started about 30 minutes before I wanted to put the bread in there. You might be looking at this bread, it doesn't really look like a fancy loaf, but I guarantee you this blob is going to be perfection. I'm gonna go ahead and take off the lid. We will uncover the dough. I'm going to roll it towards me. There we go. Flop it into the cast iron pan. We are going to score the top. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the lid back on it, and we'll put it in the oven for 30 minutes. After that, I'll take the lid off and bake it for another 10 to 15. Check out this beauty, hot out of the oven, looks absolutely gorgeous on top. Every time I make this bread and it looks a little bit, I don't know, floppy going into the oven, and then by the time it gets done baking, it's gorgeous every single time. This has to be one of the easiest no-knead sourdough artisan breads I have seen. Let's take it out of the cast iron Dutch oven. Look at that gorgeous loaf. I hope that you are feeling inspired to make some sourdough artisan bread. Maybe get a starter or reactivate one that you've had going. It really just can't get any easier than this. I can't wait to dig in and enjoy